This video is designed to help you to start your growth plan and complete the self-assessment. First of all, go to Rapid Identity and find the iObservation app. If you cannot locate it on your screen, you can search for it in the Find an App screen, or excuse me, bar here. Once you have that, go ahead and open up iObservation. When you come to iObservation, it should look like this screen. You'll find the Growth tab across the top. Choose Plans, choose Create. Now you're at the stage where we're going to go ahead and take the self-assessment. It is important that you assess yourself on 19 of the elements. The most important part is making sure that in the 19 elements that you are assessing yourself on the elements that are going to end up in your growth plan. I would encourage you to go back and take a look at some of the suggested elements from our staff meeting that are included under the areas of teacher practice, student engagement, and student achievement. You do not have to select those elements in your growth plan, but they are ones that as I look at them, they will align to some of the work that we are doing this year as a building. So if you want to align your work to that, those would be some ones that I would select. Now I'll go in under Take a Self-Assessment, and I am going to go to Domain 1 first because that is where most of the elements are. And you can match these along to that TDE component guide and go ahead and go in and complete the self-assessment. If you are continuing to work on learning goals and scales, you'll want to choose number 1. That is a required element for anybody that's under that probationary piece and anyone else that has not yet been given permission from me to continue or to move on to something else. If you're unsure and would like to move on to a different element from learning goals and scales, just reach out. So with this, now I see what learning goals and scales is. What is most important is really looking at what the desired effect is. It says students understand your learning goal and what the scale means. Then you can see what some ideas are for teacher evidence, but where you're going to want to go is down to the scale and rate yourself on where you're at. You can click on the resources button for scale. It will give you an idea. Here, if you put yourself at applying or innovating, you are not going to be able to use these elements in your growth plan. So that's another area to be careful of because the idea is you want to grow. And if you're already at the applying or innovating level, then you don't have a lot of room to grow. So as you're choosing, you want to be wise about which elements you're selecting. And it's okay if you choose not using at all, beginning, or developing. So I'm going to select beginning. And then I can close that one out. I can look back and I can say, all right, I also want to consider, I want to make sure I get something in that student engagement piece. I see that Karen talked about maintaining a lively pace or understanding students' interests and backgrounds or verbal and nonverbal behaviors. I'm going to take a look at those, remembering that some of those relate to some of those Catalyst and PBIS strategies. I'm going to go ahead and choose maintaining a lively pace, not one I've used before. I want to see what the desired effect is. Students cognitively engage or re-engage as a result of the teacher maintaining a lively pace. So I'm going to take a look. What does that scale look like? This might be something, I've not really used this a lot. I'm not even quite sure exactly what that maybe means. So I'm going to choose not using on this, which I absolutely can do that. I've got 2 selected at this point. I'm also going to choose tracking student progress because I know we're doing that work with functional phonics and morphology. I've started to do some of that. I know based on the scale that I don't always monitor for the evidence of the extent to which students understand their performance. So I want to move from developing to applying on that one. So now I've got 3. I also am going to say that I'm in summative, so I need at least 1 more in that teacher practice. And as I look at some of the things that we've chosen, I'm going to choose something under recording and representing knowledge. I'm not quite sure why Karen wants us to consider that one, but I'm going to make sure I have that as an option, and I'm choosing to come to Tuesday's meeting. So I'm going to look at that. Based on the scale, I'm going to mark myself at beginning. I'm looking at this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I know I need 19. I also know there's a few that I want to do that are in the other, in that third domain, but I want to make sure that I have enough in this area. So I'm going to look at a few others that I have done in the past. I really want to think about my classroom rules and procedures. That might be something I continue to work in an area I want to grow in. So that might be one I use. I see that another one listed is recording and representing knowledge. You know what? That's not one I've really looked at before. I'm going to take a peek at the scale. Golly, I might be kind of at that developing spot. Again, you can take more or less time on each of these, but again, we want to get to that 19. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save and I'm going to close that for right now. I'm not going to do any finishing. I'm just going to close it. And then I'm going to look at that other domain to kind of see what those were. And that's right. Yes, I wanted to do something with pedagogical strengths and weaknesses because I really want to work with some things that they talked about last week with some of those benchmark resources. I use them. I don't know. I really want to dig into some of those critical things. I'm also going to consider looking at the individual lessons and units as I'm working with some of the changes that are within our functional phonics. So maybe I choose that one. And then I'm going to go ahead and this one, I'm not going to do any more on. I'm going to finish and select finish. And I also need to, I know I need, this one says completed. I need to go back into domain 1. And again, I need to make sure I have a total of 19. The ones that are checked are the ones I have finished. So I've got 5, I've got 6. I know I did 2 other ones. I'm up to 8. I would need to do 11 more in order to have them all done. I'm going to go ahead and just select a couple more in order to continue. Obviously, you would continue to do this work and mark them and take a little bit more time with this work. But I'm going to say I've now got enough so that it totals 19, and I'm going to choose finish. Once I have finished both of those, it will be a done check mark. You will note that I really didn't have 19 done, and it did allow me to check. Just a reminder that if I don't have the right ones selected that I'm going to choose in my growth plan and I have not self-assessed on those, it will not allow me to add them to my growth plan. The next video takes you into selecting target elements. So for now, you're done with the self-assessment portion.